Into the Fold is part of the Texas Podcast Network, the conversations changing the world. Brought to you by the University of Texas at Austin, the opinions expressed in this podcast represent the views of the hosts and guests and not of the University of Texas at Austin. Hi, welcome to Into the Fold, the mental health podcast. I'm your host, Ike Evans, and today we are delighted to bring you episode 174, Funding Mental Health, Innovations and Opportunities.
I have only ever heard positive things from people, so I guess that's good. Our services stay full. I have not ever had a training that didn't completely fill up in the 4 years that I've been doing this. So there's definitely a need there, and our Calendly stays full of people who are coming in to use our services. And so like I said, I haven't really had a lot of negative feedback, except that maybe, can we come more? Can we come live in the office? How can we get this resource more? So I think that's a really good sign that we are making a difference and that we are helping people who are helping others.
Hey y'all, welcome to Into the Fold, a podcast from the Hogg Foundation for Mental Health. I'm Mike Evans, and I'm thrilled to be with you today as we continue our season-long journey through the theme, Mental Health in Transition, Navigating Change, and Building Resilience. In this episode, we're diving into a topic that's both essential and often behind the scenes, funding. Who funds mental health work? And how do organizations access support for the critical services that they provide? And what does innovation in mental health funding look like? This conversation takes us into the heart of collaboration, innovation, and opportunity through the lens of the Hogg Foundation's reunion with the Texas Grants Resource Center. We'll explore how partnerships like these can unlock new possibilities for community-driven mental health work in Texas. To help us unpack these questions, I'm joined by three incredible guests. Amy Loar, Assistant Director of Programs at the Hogg Foundation, and Director of the Texas Grants Resource Center, Giannina Cardenas, Grants and Contract Strategist at Caritas of Austin, and Lori Najvar, Director of PolkaWorks, an Austin nonprofit focused on elevating the untold stories of Texas communities through multimedia storytelling. Welcome to all of you.
Thank you. Thanks. Happy to be here.
So let's start with the exciting return of the Texas Grants Resource Center to the Hogg Foundation. Amy, for those who don't know, what is the Texas Grants Resource Center, or TGRC as we'll be referring to it, and why does it matter to mental health funding in Texas?
So the TGRC is a program within the Hogg Foundation that helps build a bridge between grant seekers and grant funders in Texas. The TGRC has been around in various iterations since 1962. It started as an idea that the executive director at the Hogg Foundation at the time, Robert Lee Sutherland, had to provide support for local nonprofits to find funding resources that they needed. He saw the need for that and so started the program. So it was called the Regional Foundation Library then and was housed within the Hogg Foundation. It's, like I said, gone through some iterations and been in different parts of the university, but it's always been funded by Hogg. It was just kind of where it could get the most exposure to the most to the most community organizations. So it is now, with a current reorganization within the university, come back into the Hogg Foundation, and we are happy to be back. And it seems to be working well for us to be in the space again where it all started. And it has been, since the 60s, a really important tool for grants managers and executive directors, community members, individuals, people who are looking to fund the good work that we do here in Texas through the nonprofit community. And when we were talking about how the TGRC fits into the Hogg Foundation's current model, we couldn't find anybody who had come in to use the resources of the TGRC in the last 6 years that we couldn't somehow tie back to mental health. Because really everything that we do and every organization that we've helped fund, we can make a tie back to mental health. And so I think the Hogg Foundation decided it was really important to keep this resource open. So we don't just help people who specifically work in mental health, but we help anybody who's trying to make a difference in their communities that is a 501c3.
Right. And so just to be clear, any and all nonprofits, basically.
Correct.
Yeah. And do you have a sense of kind of, not that there's any such thing as a typical nonprofit, but like just a breakdown of types of organizations or just a sense of like who a typical TGRC customer is?
Sure.
If that's something you profile.
Right. We do conduct surveys, particularly of people who come and get our trainings, but also we do an annual survey of people that have come and used our services. And I think anybody who is looking to support their foundation's funding through grants is a typical person that comes in. So we've had people in health and human services. We've had people that work in education. We have people who are working with individuals who are experiencing homelessness. We have a lot of people that come in that are working specifically in mental health fields. And then we have lots of artists that come in and musicians and people who are kind of helping in those various fields. We have people that come in that are looking to do preservation work and environmental work. It kind of really runs the gamut throughout the nonprofit field. Lots of people have been represented and come in to look for grant funding.
Okay. And I'd love to know just like what kind of validation that you get from people who have made use of TGRC, and if you have any stories or accounts to share.
I have only ever heard positive things from people, so I guess that's good. And our services stay full. I have not ever had a training that didn't completely fill up in the 4 years that I've been doing this.
Wow.
So there's definitely a need there. And our Calendly stays full of people who are coming in to use our services. And so like I said, I haven't really had a lot of negative feedback, except that maybe, can we come more? Can we come live in the office? Yeah. How can we get this resource more? So I think that's a really good sign that we are making a difference and that we are helping people who are helping others.
And I'd love to know about any like new efforts that you might be making to try to meet the demand, particularly since coming back to the Hogg Foundation.
Mm-hmm. So since we have come back to the Hogg Foundation, we've tried kind of different ways to make sure we're getting the word out about where we are. And I think that has been successful. People have found us in our new location. We also kind of looked at structuring our trainings where they're all virtual right now. So that makes it accessible to people all across Texas. So we're really trying to widen our scope from being more Central Texas focused to being statewide. Particularly with our trainings, but also with the access to the Candid database, which is a giant database of information about where most of the funding in the United States goes in the 501c3 space, which is one of the biggest indicators of if a foundation would be interested in funding an organization is if they funded one like that before. So it's a really useful resource for nonprofits to come in and see where foundations are giving their funding and to get really specific into what their funding needs are and who's funding in those areas. So that has been really helpful. We are looking to, in the summer, expanding the hours that the database cultivation is open. so that more nonprofits will have access to the database and be able to come and search to get the information that they need to help in their grant writing efforts.
Okay, so Giannina, you go by G, correct? Yeah.
Many do know me as G. Yes.
I don't know what kinds of things come to mind as you're kind of listening to what Amy just said. Yeah.
Well, I think just hearing about the history and its origins, it's all very selfless. You're giving back to a lot of people who are also giving back, and nonprofit work isn't always the most lucrative or the most easy. So being able to help out people who are in this line of work to be able to do good for the rest of the community is really cool to hear. And having used the resources myself, such a huge help. Helping organizations, big or small, no matter what their budgets are, save on their budgets instead of having to invest in access to a database and getting help for free almost whenever we need it is super, super helpful, especially for organizations that are starting up.
And yes, I think Texas Grant Resource Center is a wealth of information for small nonprofits. Often we look for funding within the communities of the subjects that we're usually featuring, and there's so much more out there to unveil, and instead of being lost in that world of fundraising, it's very powerful to go to one location or to have a team of people that are helping do a deeper dive into discovering some other financial resources or communities at large too, to learn about others.
Okay, so from grant maker support to grant seeker perspective, let's now hear from a little bit more from Lori and from G, just because you're just deep in the day-to-day of fundraising for your respective organizations, or you have been at least. G, let's start with you. You know, Caritas just does such critical work at the intersection of a lot of different issues. So certainly mental health, but also, housing, just the gamut. And so I just love to know a little bit more about what are some of like the biggest, funding challenges that you face in supporting that work, and maybe just give us a sense of whatever it is that has you pulling your hair out. Not to presume too much, but
yeah, I think it's a lot of responsibility and weight on the shoulders to be, not solely because we're a team at Caritas, the grants team, we are fully bearing the responsibility of keeping everything going, us along with the rest of the development team. But grants are a huge part of that, and finding funding sources and opportunities that match with what we are either already doing, can do, or just unrestricted, that can be the biggest challenge. And making the choice to go for an opportunity or not, depending on the capacity of our staff that work with clients, and not adding too much more work for the award that we're looking for. So that can definitely be a challenge. The golden rule is looking for unrestricted funds. If we can find them, the bigger the better as well. But those can be competitive. It's not always gonna work out year after year. Sometimes there are waiting periods before you can apply again. So definitely looking for more funders that match our values and share our mission. That's the ongoing challenge that we face in the grants team. Just always looking for new funding sources, because with philanthropic grants especially, you just can't always guarantee that you're going to get them year after year, like with a government contract.
Yeah. Is there anything? We talk a lot about sustainability, here at the Hogg Foundation. have you ever had the experience of having to just suddenly pivot or even kind of pull the plug on something that was kind of on its way to maturity because, there was some kind of shakeup in the funding situation?
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time. That's why, again, we just try to pile on as much funding as we can. It's not, if we need to raise $100,000, we're not going to submit $100,000 worth of grants and call it a day. We're going to keep going and going and going and going. And if we get way more than what our goal was, great. But until the end of the fiscal year, until we meet that budget amount that we need to meet, we just have to keep going. And it's just very uncertain at times, especially now with funding sources and situations changing. Waiting times on hearing back for our grant applications, it's been taking a bit longer because other people are trying to figure out where they stand. So at this point, there are points in time where we have most of our applications pending and we're just waiting. And so since none of that is guaranteed, we just have to keep finding more and more and more to satisfy potentially not getting any of those and still meeting our requirements for funding. So it's an ongoing chase.
Yeah. So Lori, the chase. Let's hear. You seem energized. Let's.
It is a chase.
Yeah.
Especially in these times right now where national and state funding has been jeopardized and compromised. Our small organization, our productions are high quality, but there's smaller productions that are made accessible for small museums, maybe not so small. In some cases, they just can't afford to have public programs and a traveling exhibit that visits them for a low-cost production. So that's where we come into play. PolkaWorks comes into play in producing public programs and a message that is current and that is going to serve a larger community of people that are interested in teaching generations of not just history, but what cultural practices are occurring this day and time. So that's where our value comes in, and yet funding is always interesting for a small nonprofit because we have a board of directors and we don't have the resources to have a fundraiser every year. So seeking a larger amount of money or a substantial amount that might supplement a documentary. As we all know, we can all use our iPhones to make a short little movie, but if you want high quality to show on public broadcasting system or have a screening in larger venues, it's important to have high quality productions. So therefore, the resources are very important when you can seek that out.
My first time at TGRC was late last year. The grants team made our way down for an in-person visit, and we sat for about an hour looking for new funders. As mentioned, we always are looking for new funding sources and opportunities. So we were able to look at that for an hour, go back, do some more research, vet it a little bit more. And since then, I've used the virtual appointments very often. Me and Giannina have had several one-on-one sessions, and she's been so awesome helping me figure out whether a funder fits our needs or finding another funder that works better and getting that information so that I can not only receive it, but store it, file it, and then relay it to my team. And right now we are working on 2 really good funding opportunities that I found through TGRC and that Giannina has helped me narrow down and figure out if they are a good source. So it's a it's been really awesome for us to increase our funding.
And I want to echo the shout out to Javeria Khan, our wonderful, the TGRC graduate assistant, who's, yes.
She's great.
Yeah, she's great.
So I've really learned that TGRC is just out there to help so many different types of organizations. And there's not, our small organization can't afford to have a fundraising software that is provides all this information. As we all know, it can be very detail-oriented, and if you're not a grant writer as a professional, it can be very daunting. And I found the staff to be very helpful in guiding myself and some interns as well, and learning to navigate in the resources that are out there. And it's beyond one-stop shopping. I think it provides years of cultivating and aggregating all these different resources. So I really want to give a shout out to them. They've been very helpful.
Okay, so yours, Lori, is the one cultural organization whose perspective we're really wanting to faithfully represent in this conversation. That's one of the reasons why I reached out to you. So PolkaWorks, your organization, tells powerful cultural stories, is one thing that I sort of glean. And put you on the spot just a little bit. What do you see as the relationship between your work and mental health? And if you have any thoughts on how storytelling connects to the idea of resilience, because that's something we hammer on quite a bit here at Hogg.
So the arts in general and cultural stories within different communities are so important in our society, especially now. I think there's a lot of isolation with all populations, right? It doesn't matter if and what age you are. And so in order to really cultivate and assist with mental health in our society, it's really important to celebrate, to honor, and to collaborate with different stories that are not always recognized. And subcultures out there might be very prideful in what they are presenting in their own community, but when that story is shared with other cultures, I think everybody learns to have respect and have some understanding and and camaraderie, and just learning about, oh, we're sort of similar. That ingredient in my culture is used in your food, and that song reminds me of this type of genre of music. And so that's where I think we're very mindful of presenting information in a colorful way, in an informative way, in a friendly way that all populations can understand and identify with. Therefore, I think the celebration can help in our wellness and our respect for each other.
Okay, wonderful. For this entire year of podcasts, we are we're using the theme of mental health in transition, and kind of the through line from one conversation to the next is really trying to address how people and organizations and communities are maintaining resilience in the face of change. And so one thing that I'm really interested in, and why it's so great that the three of you are here, is that you're just because of the work that you do, you have to be able to think on your feet. You have to be able to sometimes pivot quickly. And so the last several years, starting with COVID, have been marked by increasing change and uncertainty. Like you mentioned, like funding has come up, and how it is that there's very little that you can take for granted nowadays. And so I'm really interested in getting at how, TGRC in its way is maybe perhaps trying to help organizations navigate change. So Amy, if that's something that you've had any time to kind of reflect upon, and kind of what it is that you feel like through TGRC you're prepared to offer to organizations.
Right. Well, I do think that grant funding helps organizations to diversify their funder database in general. So if a nonprofit has a lot of individual donors but haven't really had the opportunity to look at grant funding, then we have introductory training for how to write a grant for that or how to search for grant opportunities. And then also if it is a situation where a nonprofit has seen an uptick in need, which I think is going to continue to happen as our world continues to change, and certainly did happen during the pandemic, is that there was a big increase in need for a lot of our service providers. Then grant funding gave them a way to kind of increase what they were doing. I think it also helped to educate, for the TGRC to be able to educate people on kind of the grant cycle and maybe getting a little deeper into how to measure their outcomes and looking at project budgets and things like that. So we cater our training to kind of what we see happening in the world. So this year we're spending a little bit more time on measuring impact because we've kind of gotten people into writing grants and how those introductory courses can be an entryway into what TGRC can help you do. And then you can move into how to create kind of more impactful storytelling or how you can work on that impact and how you measure what you do, which is very helpful across all levels of the organization, but certainly with fundraising. And to kind of understand the grant cycle, because it is a little bit longer and it's a little bit different cultivation. It takes a little bit longer to kind of find what you need to look for as far as a potential funder and understanding what they need from you, getting all of those pieces together. So the approach is a little different than most individual fundraising. So it takes a different kind of skill set and really strong writing and communication skills. So I think we've been able to help move the needle that way a little bit for organizations, and also just to understand what funding is out there. It's hard to kind of get to know a lot of foundations. A lot of them are small family foundations. They don't have their means either, or they don't have the staff to put into marketing. So it helps to have a big database where all of that information can be found easily. So hopefully that has been helpful to nonprofits. And also to just remember, this is a 6 to 8 month cycle, and how that fits into your overall fundraising plan is important. But I think it also really helps with kind of the long-term funding priorities and how to help the organization sustain into coming years also.
And I guess another question that I've got kind of in that spirit, and this is for either G or Lori, are there things that funders are doing differently that kind of give you hope for the situation? Is there any sense that they're willing to be more flexible, less obstinate, more communicative, depending on what your biggest pain points are, signs that things might be changing or getting better?
Well, I think the competition has become more, it's deeper these days because funding may not be as available, or everyone realizes, oh, we can look into this and get support from other communities. So I think the competition, you have to be sharper, and you may get discounted or knocked down by 2 points. And it's nothing, it's like your proposal may be fine. It's just someone else was just a little bit above you. And so it's a lot of need for mental health and for organizations like Caritas that there's just more and more need. And so the pool gets a little smaller, I would say, in some cases. So
I would say something that I've heard funders are doing because of the real increased needs, is that they are sometimes having to make the choice to fund more organizations, but provide smaller awards. But that's been something that has been really difficult for some foundations to decide, because for some foundations they do give to the same organizations every year, a consistent amount, where that almost becomes a relied source of funds. But if they have to change that up, that's hard. But if they can widen their reach, that's also a positive. So funders are definitely considering, especially right now, the financial situation of all of these organizations, nonprofits that are struggling financially because of cuts to government funding. So that's good to see and good to hear that they are very much considering it and carrying the same stress that we are about what to do next.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. I mean, I work for funder, and the uncertainty, it kind of weighs heavily on us, and yeah, we are just trying to make a way for ourselves, for our grantees, and kind of marshaling, kind of our resources to just try to clear a pathway as much as we can. But I'm sure that we don't see everything. So in fact, Amy, I'd like to kind of maybe kick it back to you. It's you got to love doing this work, because there's just so much strategizing that you have to do, and it takes a tremendous amount of empathy, because so much of the work is trying to anticipate from the point of view of someone else. And so, I would love to know just kind of what you consider to be some of the most important things that you've learned about the world of nonprofits in general, or even just that empathetic connection over the course of your time with TGRC.
Yeah, I think it's been really interesting to be positioned within a foundation while providing this information, because I think that I can kind of help inform nonprofits about what foundations are kind of feeling based on the connections that we have and the information we get on the foundation side, but also help inform the foundation on what nonprofits are needing and looking for and where their kind of pain points are, so that we can pay attention at the Hogg Foundation to those too. So I think it's a unique position, and I think it's one of the benefits of having TGRC within the Hogg Foundation. And it's also, I think, been helpful to see how the foundation works, because my career until now has been in the nonprofit field in different organizations within Austin. So it has been interesting to learn and be able to relate from the foundation side back to people who are looking for funding now about, these are the really important pieces. I know how this feels when you're the director or when you're the fund finder within an organization, to help kind of see big picture what foundations are looking at, and to be able to relay that information both ways, I think has been a unique part of this job, and something I've really enjoyed, being able to kind of go between those two worlds in a way that I think is helpful on both sides.
Okay, so I'm going to get y'all out of here on this one. Just anything that your organizations have on the horizon that you would like for our listeners to know about. This is a chance to plug whatever it is that y'all have going on, that maybe our listeners, by going to your websites, could find out a little bit more about. So Lori, take it away.
So PolkaWorks.org has some storytelling on the projects that we have produced. But the two current documentaries that we're working on is one is called Two Worlds, One Path, and it's about a Holocaust survivor and a Vietnamese. Both are women, and their storytelling is about coming to Texas as 11 and 12-year-olds with their families, and how they contributed it, and how they rose in their education to society. And there's some great cultural references about, coming from a different world and then coming to Texas in specifically. So it's a fun historical, but compelling story. It's honoring these two women, but it has a great message for young people that are here, that were not born here. And then our second project is called, the working title is called Squeeze Accordingly. And this is honoring it's many different cultures who embrace their ethnic identity with music, but they play the accordion. And
okay, can I chime in? I don't think you need to workshop that any further.
That's pretty great.
I think that's perfect.
Okay.
Just one dude's opinion.
Okay.
Yeah.
I am interested in how you got those projects funded.
So they're not all completely funded. As y'all know, in any kind of work like this, you have to start with an idea, and you have a goal in mind, but you can't just fundraise without your ideas fleshed out, something to present, and so it's all happening simultaneously. We've been fortunate to always get, I would say 90% of our endorsements have come through Humanities Texas, because they value the subjects that we've chosen, and we've had some awards that it's been very crucial for our seed money. Mm-hmm. And then we actually reach out to the communities that the subject may be about, whether it's some sort of nonprofit or a fraternal organization that might be connected to the community. So currently, I'm reaching out to accordion communities and different, not just manufacturers, but accordion shops. As y'all all know, they're not making millions of dollars, but those community hubs can set a direction to connect with other people. Mm-hmm. And then reaching out to TGRC is another way of seeking out some other possible community that's connected to music, or in the case of Two Worlds, where we're looking at the immigrant story. As I'm thinking, us sitting around the table, we also know that PBS is not like they're throwing money to get a local story on air. So it's nice to have a quality piece before, and I would say the level of the project and its quality and sustainability it's often helpful to have more money. Mm-hmm. So we're doing all this at once. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense to y'all?
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Yeah. So we're on our knees a lot.
Well, Caritas, we just had our huge yearly fundraiser, Songs of Hope. Keep it on your radar for next year. It's a really fun event. We're in the makings of next year's right now, so I don't have any solid details, but we try to aim to have it around this time before the weather gets too hot. And the next event we have coming up, Turkey Trot, which is a ways away. We're a bit in an events downtime, but you can always go to our website, www.caritasofAustin.org, and you can take a look at all the work we're doing. We have our impact reports on there, and you can reach out to volunteer. Usually it's in the community kitchen, which is also awesome. I could talk about all our fantastic services forever, but we offer free lunches to anyone who wants a free lunch, Monday through Friday from 11 to 12:30 at our downtown location. And our volunteers are crucial to opening that dine-in service because they are the ones seating our diners, bringing them their food, busing, keeping everything clean. So could always use some more help in there. Make sure we can get people inside the dining hall.
Okay, Amy, and for TGRC, just anything you're wanting folks to keep an eye out for.
Well, we are expanding our hours starting in the summer, so I'm excited about that. And we do have our trainings coming up for how to search for nonprofit grant opportunities, how to create your project budgets, and how to measure your impact. So kind of keeping those going throughout the summer too. So those are kind of our highlights. So if y'all are interested in any of those topics, go to our website for training information or also times to come visit us at the TGRC location to do some grant search funding.
Yeah, and that's tgrc.hogg.utexas.edu.
Thank you.
So yeah, check that out. Well, this has been a wonderful conversation. I really do appreciate the three of you taking the time. Yeah, there's help out there, even at a time like now. So if you happen to be running a nonprofit and you're just wanting to make yourself as resilient as possible by learning as much as possible, please absorb the conversation that you just heard and just take some kind of action for the sake of yourself. Thanks to all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A key theme for the conversation that you just heard was collaboration. In our present moment of uncertainty, the willingness of people to work together to tackle complex challenges is a crucial resilience factor. In episode 58 from 2018, we got to know the Bexar County Community Health Collaborative, a powerful enterprise that brings a synergistic approach to solving critical community health needs. It's also a model of an organization with a proven track record of managing the challenges of collaborating across sectors. Here's a listen.
Well, many great things come to mind. We're better together than working individually. Certainly, we're stronger together.
Right.
But really, what comes to mind is that the collaborative nature. When in your mission statement is to improve health through collaborative means, what we have is an intention and a purpose. But it is a difficult journey. Collaboration is not for the faint of heart. And we have been around for 20 years.
Yeah.
And yes, collaboration is all that it talks about. It means putting aside your personal agenda and having discussions about the greater good. And this is about the greater good. It is not something that happens overnight. And it doesn't happen in one movement because everyone agreed to it. There's a lot of take two steps forward and one step backward. And that's the honesty of what organizations like ours have experienced. But what we have experienced genuinely is every single member has shared a commitment throughout the years, through these 20 years. And I've had the privilege of being part in one way, shape, or form of this Hogg Collaborative for 20 years. And because of that, the difficult journey of working collaboratively has really made it better, has improved how we do that. But there are heated discussions, yes. That there are many ways in which we agree and disagree, yes. But I think the highest thing you can say about a good collaborative is let's agree to disagree, but let's agree that we will move forward at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
The voice that you just heard belonged to Pilar Oates, member of the board of directors of the Collaborative. She, along with board member Bob Farrar and executive director Elizabeth Lutz, joined us to discuss what their organization's success meant for the people of their community. I've dropped the link to the full episode in the show notes, so check it out. And that does it for this episode. We're so glad that you could join us. Production assistance by Kate Rooney, Daryl Wiggins, and Anna Harris. And thanks as always to the Hogg Foundation for its support. For all of those listening, I hope that at least some part of you felt seen during our conversation today. And my challenge to you is to take at least one thing that you learned and put it to good use in your life, your work, or your community. And then to drop us a line at intothefold@austin.utexas.edu. We would love to know how this conversation impacted you and anything that you might be doing to further the conversation, or anything that you might be doing to carry the lessons forward for the benefit of those who you care about. Please leave us a review, subscribe to us on the podcast app of your choice. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, or wherever you get your podcasts. Taking us out now is Anna's Good Vibes by our friend Anna Harris. Thanks for joining us.